Hello, my name is Mary, and I would like to report here something very obscure that happened in my family a few years ago. It wasn't directly at my house that this happened, but at my Aunt Alice's house. She was my mother's sister, and she had 3 children, Taylor, Tegan, and Tenley. We grew up in the same neighborhood. My aunt was a single mother, and each son had a father. I remember that people at home were poor, but unfortunately my aunt was more. I remember that my mother and father helped at my aunt's house because things were very difficult there. But time went by and we grew up. Soon we were old enough to work and help at home. At home it was a relief to be able to help my mom and dad with the housework, and at my mom's house it was the same thing. My aunt's 2 eldest children started working very early to help around the house, and only the youngest didn't want to help. He was Taylor. Taylor was the typical sucker teenager. He only went to school to smoke weed and skip class. He hung out with a bunch of bums who weren't good enough to do anything but smoke and hang around, and my aunt always defended him when someone said something about it. She always tried to protect him and made up an excuse to ease his temper. It made her brothers very pissed. I didn't particularly talk to Taylor much since an embarrassing episode he made me go through on a trip we took as a family. I'll tell you. We traveled to Utah to ski, and we went by car, with the right to stop on the way for us to sleep in a hotel. The problem was that my father's car didn't fit all of us, and I went on Taylor's lap, and he had an erection, leaving me completely embarrassed. I had to ask not to be on his lap, and it left a terrible atmosphere on the trip. After that episode we never spoke again. I'll get straight to the point with what happened to him. He started hanging out with some sinister devil worshippers, and he started getting really weird. I changed his way of dressing and talking, my aunt always trying to justify his actions, and he getting worse and worse with what he was doing. He even came to talk to me. We had all been raised in the church, and with these things he went against everything, really everything we believed in. I asked him what was going on with him and why he had changed that way, and he told me that he couldn't be a Christian anymore and that he now worshipped the devil, and he asked me if it was difficult to accept that a person could think differently and be accepted by us. I hadn't spoken to him in a long time, and I swear I tried not to get rid of him, but Taylor's ideas were very strange. In fact, they were too much for me, and I told him that it was better to stay away anyway, and that I didn't want any more story. He said that everything was fine, and we stopped talking again. Who knew that would be the last time we were talking? As time went by, my cousin got worse and stranger. He started to have a split personality, and I found out from my mother that he was much worse than I thought. She said that he had made some kind of pact and hooked up with a demon, and then the demon started to take over his body. I didn't understand any of this, and I didn't believe it either until I actually saw it happen to him. I'll tell you. It was a family barbecue, and he arrived after everyone was already there, so it was impossible not to notice. But it wasn't him. I know my cousin was strange, but that was a totally different person. He talked in a different way. He walked in a different way away. It literally wasn't my cousin. He didn't stay long and disappeared. My aunt and her brothers were very ashamed of him. From then on, I started to be afraid of him, and I started to avoid being where he was. Until one day we received the news that he had killed himself. He had committed suicide. That left my aunt devastated, and in a way the whole family too. Sometime after his death, I went to talk to my aunt about him and his death, and she said that it wasn't him, that thing that got into him that did it, that thing that had killed him, and he had warned about it. She told me he didn't give it what it wanted, and she said she was going to take his life, and she went there and did it. I was shocked by this, and I was also very scared because that demon had literally killed my cousin. He was weird, but he didn't deserve that end, and what makes a person get involved in that kind of thing? A while later I met a friend who was also part of the cult that Taylor belonged to, and he confirmed what my aunt said. He said that he had made a pact and that he paid for not fulfilling a deal. He said that to get involved with these things you have to be aware of the responsibilities they have. I just know that I don't leave church, and that's the story. It was about what happened in my family.